972 days ago, a football expert stood in front of a camera and said Lionel Messi's World Cup story was basically finished. No more chapters left to write. And for a while, it actually looked true. But here's the part almost nobody saw coming. The part that turned into one of the wildest storylines in the history of this tournament. Messi didn't just add one more chapter. He rewrote the entire record book, broke a mark that had stood untouched for 12 straight years, became the outright leading goal scorer in the history of the FIFA World Cup, and then, on the very final day of the tournament, watched someone else take that crown right back from him before the trophy was even lifted. If you think you already know the full story of Messi at the World Cup, stick around, because what happened across 6 different tournaments is stranger, more emotional, and more complicated than any highlight reel could ever show you. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the end of by end of the X, that is any end of us, why to get us, where to me and so names and go in, and lo at the end, and where and we in, and where and where I'm, and where I'm Welcome back to Goal Verdict, the channel where we don't just show you the stats, we actually break down what they mean, why they happened, and what comes next. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of deep dive we live for. So, if you want more breakdowns like this drop straight into your feed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. And if this video pulls you in even a little bit, drop a like before you keep watching. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it takes about 1 second of your time. Alright, let's get into it, because Messi's World Cup journey doesn't start with glory. It starts with a substitution nobody outside Argentina even remembers. Rewind all the way back to June of 2006 in Germany. Messi is 18 years old, barely out of his teenage years. Sitting on the bench during Argentina's second group stage match against Serbia and Montenegro. In the 75th minute, he gets the call. He walks onto the biggest stage in football for the very first time in his life, and in the time he's given, he finds the back of the net. 1 goal, his very first World Cup goal, scored as a teenager in a tournament where most players his age are still trying to convince a coach to even put them on the field. Argentina wins that game 6-0, and it feels like the opening line of a fairy tale. A young genius, arriving early, scoring immediately, and everyone assumes this is just the beginning of something enormous. Except, football doesn't work like a fairy tale, and that's where the first twist comes in. 4 years later, in South Africa, the fairy tale completely stalls. Messi plays the entire 2010 World Cup and doesn't score a single goal. 0. Not one. For a player already being compared to Diego Maradona, total blank at a World Cup was almost unthinkable, and it set off years of debate about whether Messi could actually deliver on this specific stage, the one stage that mattered more to Argentina than anything else. Club form didn't matter here. Ballon d'Or trophies didn't matter here on the World Cup stage in 2010. The goals simply didn't come, and that silence followed him for years. Now, here's where the story really starts to turn, and where the analysis gets interesting, because 2014 in Brazil is where Messi answered every single doubt at once. He didn't just score, he exploded. 4 goals across the tournament, starting with a goal against Bosnia and Herzegovina, where he skipped past 2 defenders before curling the ball in off the post. Then a strike against Iran in a game Argentina desperately needed. Then a brace against Nigeria that basically single-handedly kept Argentina's campaign alive. 4 goals, a golden ball as the tournament's best player, and Argentina marching all the way to the final. For a moment, it looked like destiny was finally lining up. But football has a habit of writing cruel endings, And in the 113th minute of that final against Germany, Mario Götze scored, and Messi walked away from that tournament with the individual award for best player, but without the trophy that actually mattered. Imagine being named the best player at the entire World Cup and still going home without the one prize you wanted most. That's the kind of heartbreak that would break most careers. Messi kept going anyway. By 2018 in Russia, the story takes another dip. Messi scores, just once, a goal against Nigeria, and Argentina crashes out in the round of 16 against France in a match that's remembered more for a young Kylian Mbappe announcing himself to the world than for anything Argentina did. At this point, critics weren't just doubting Messi's World Cup scoring record anymore. They were openly questioning whether he'd ever win the tournament at all. Some experts were writing him off completely, treating his international career as a story that was basically finished without the ending anyone wanted. And that brings us to the moment everything changed. 2022, Qatar. Messi is 35 years old, in what almost everyone assumed was his final realistic shot at the trophy. And instead of fading, he delivered the single greatest individual World Cup performance of his career. 7 goals across the tournament, including 2 goals in the final itself against France. 1 from the penalty spot, and 1 in extra time to put Argentina back in front. That final ended up going to penalties, and Messi converted his, and Argentina lifted the World Cup for the 3rd time in their history, their first since 1986. 7 goals wasn't enough to win him the Golden Boot that year. Kylian Mbappe scored 8 and took that individual prize, but Messi didn't need it because he finally had the one trophy that actually mattered. Becoming the first player ever to win the Golden Ball twice in World Cup history. After 16 years, after a scoreless tournament, after a heartbreaking final loss, Messi finally had his World Cup. And that should have been the ending, right? A perfect closing chapter. Except Messi came back one more time for a 6th World Cup appearance in 2026, coasted across North America, and what he did there turned this entire record conversation completely upside down. He opened the tournament with a hat-trick against Algeria, 20 years to the day after his very first World Cup appearance back in 2006. Then he added a brace against Austria, and with that second goal, something historic happened. He officially passed Miroslav Klose's long-standing record of 16 World Cup goals, a mark that had stood untouched for 12 years, became the outright all-time leading goal scorer in the history of the FIFA World Cup. Think about that for a second. A record that survived over a decade, broken by a 39-year-old playing in what he'd already announced would be his final World Cup. He didn't stop there, either. Messi kept adding to the tally. A goal against Jordan, 1 against Cabo Verde, another against Egypt in a round of 16, pushing his career World Cup goal total up toward the 20s, becoming the first player in history to score in 9 consecutive World Cups, the first to score or assist across 11 straight World Cup matches, and racking up the most career goal contributions on record since 1966. But here's the twist that most highlight videos completely leave out. The part that actually makes this story so gripping. In that same 2026 tournament, on the exact opposite side of the bracket, Kylian Mbappe was doing something almost identical, scoring at an incredible rate of his own. And on the very final day of the tournament, Mbappe pulled ahead, finishing with more career World Cup goals than Messi, taking back the all-time scoring crown that Messi had only just claimed weeks earlier. So where does that leave the final numbers? Across 6 World Cup tournaments, spanning 2 decades of his career, Messi finished with 1 goal in 2006, 0 in 2010, 4 in 2014, 1 in 2018, 7 in 2022, 8 in 2026, adding up to 21 career World Cup goals, the second most in the history of the tournament. And the final on the pitch didn't go his way either. Argentina lost the 2026 final 1-0 to Spain, with Ferran Torres scoring the winner in extra time and Enzo Fernandez getting sent off late in the game, leaving Argentina down a man when it mattered most. Argentina barely created anything in that final, managing almost no shots on target across the entire 90 minutes, while Spain dominated possession from start to finish. It wasn't bad luck that beat Argentina that day. It was a complete tactical shutdown, and Messi himself, at 39 years old, simply didn't have the same explosiveness left in his legs that carried him to glory 4 years earlier in Qatar. And that's really what makes this whole record so fascinating when you step back and actually analyze it rather than just listing the numbers. This isn't a clean, simple story of one guy dominating from start to finish. It's a 2-decade roller coaster, a scoreless tournament in his prime years. It's heartbreak in a final he should have won. Kate, from critics who thought his chance had already passed him by. An unbelievable redemption at 35, and then one final tournament at 39, where he broke a historic record, only to watch a rival snatch it right back before the trophy was even handed out. That's not luck. That's not just talent either, although obviously the talent is undeniable. It's the kind of career arc you almost never see in sports. Someone who kept showing up again and again across 6 different tournaments, absorbing every setback, and still finding a way to leave his name at the very top of the history books, even if he didn't quite finish on top this time. So here's the real question worth sitting with. It's 21 goals across 6 tournaments, with all of that heartbreak and redemption built into it. Actually, a more impressive story than simply having the most goals outright. Let us know what you think in the comments. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed breaking down this record with us, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next analysis, because we've got plenty more of these coming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one, right here on Goal Verdict.